I'm 64-year-old Patricia, a widow, trying to navigate life after my husband Jack's passing. When he died, I discovered he'd left me $82 million in beachfront villas that I never knew existed. When my daughter Amanda got married last spring, I chose not to reveal our family fortune. It was the hardest decision of my life, keeping this secret from my only child on her big day. But my motherly instincts screamed caution about her charming fiancé. Before I dive into what happened after my daughter's wedding, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever kept a secret to protect someone you love. I grew up in a small town in Ohio where everyone knew everyone and nobody had much money. My parents worked factory jobs, putting in long hours just to keep food on the table. I learned early that hard work and honesty were the foundations of a good life. Back then, I never dreamed I'd one day be worth millions. I met Jack at a charity fundraiser when I was 24. I was there helping serve food, and he was a guest who donated a substantial amount. Unlike the other wealthy donors who barely acknowledged the staff, Jack stopped to talk with me. He asked about my dreams, and I told him I wanted to become a teacher. There was something genuine about him that caught my attention immediately. Jack wasn't born into money either. He started as a real estate agent and gradually built his business by buying small properties, renovating them, and selling at a profit. By the time we met, he owned a small but successful real estate company. Our courtship was simple but meaningful. Jack never flaunted his growing wealth. We'd go for walks in the park, have picnics by the lake, and talk for hours about our hopes and dreams. 6 months after meeting, he proposed with a modest ring, saying he'd rather put money toward our future than an extravagant diamond. We married in a small ceremony with just our closest friends and family. Together, we built his real estate business into an empire. While Jack handled the business side, I managed our home, and after a few years, cared for our daughter Amanda when she came along. Though I never took an official title in the company, Jack always consulted me on major decisions. As our wealth grew, we maintained a relatively modest lifestyle. We upgraded to a comfortable 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood, but nothing extravagant. Jack always said, "Money should work for you, not define you." We taught Amanda the value of hard work and compassion, never wanting her to become entitled. Jack's death 3 years ago came without warning. He collapsed from a massive heart attack while playing golf with friends. At 67, he'd been healthy and vibrant, making his sudden passing all the more shocking. I was devastated, losing not just my husband, but my best friend and partner of 40 years. The weeks following his funeral were a blur of grief and paperwork. It was during a meeting with our family attorney that I discovered the true extent of our wealth. Jack had been secretly investing in beachfront properties around the world. The attorney unveiled a portfolio worth $82 million in luxury villas that I knew nothing about. "Why wouldn't he tell me?" I asked the attorney in disbelief. "Jack wanted to surprise you," he explained. "He was planning to reveal everything on your upcoming anniversary trip. He had tickets booked to take you to see all the properties." The revelation left me stunned. While I knew we were comfortable, I had no idea we were multimillionaires. Jack had always managed our finances, giving me a generous monthly budget that I rarely questioned. Now, I had to learn how to manage this fortune on my own. In my grief, I made a decision that would later prove crucial. I chose not to immediately tell Amanda about the extent of our wealth. She was 27 then, building her career as an elementary school teacher, living in a small apartment with roommates and making a modest salary. I was proud of her independence and work ethic. I feared that sudden knowledge of such wealth might derail the values we'd instilled in her. Instead, I told her we were financially secure thanks to her father's life insurance and business investments. I continued living in our family home, taking occasional trips to secretly visit the villas and learn about managing the properties. Each time I told Amanda I was visiting old friends. The contrast between my public and private life became stark. To the world, I was a modest widow living on her husband's life insurance. In private, I was flying first class to check on multi-million-dollar properties around the globe. The double life was exhausting but felt necessary. Amanda thrived in her teaching career, passionate about helping young children learn. She lived frugally on her teacher's salary, occasionally accepting small gifts from me that I framed as splurges from my retirement fund. She never suspected that I could have bought her an entire school if I wanted to. I often questioned whether my deception was right. Was I protecting Amanda, or was I controlling her? Was I honouring Jack's memory by preserving the values we'd taught our daughter, or betraying his legacy by hiding his achievements? These questions kept me awake many nights. What I didn't realise was that my well-intentioned secret would soon be tested in ways I never imagined. My daughter Amanda was always focused on her career rather than dating. At 30, she'd had a few relationships, but nothing serious. Teaching consumed her life, and she poured her heart into her first-grade students. I sometimes worried she might miss out on finding love, but I respected her dedication to her profession. Then Tyler entered the picture. They met at a fundraiser for Amanda's school. He'd volunteered to help coordinate sponsors for their annual charity auction. Amanda came home absolutely glowing after meeting him. "Mom, he's amazing," she gushed over our weekly Sunday dinner. "He's smart and successful, but still cares about giving back to the community." Tyler claimed to be a business consultant for startups, helping new companies find investors and develop growth strategies. When Amanda first brought him home for dinner, I was impressed by his charm and apparent intelligence. He spoke eloquently about business trends and made a point to ask me thoughtful questions about my life. Yet something felt off. I couldn't quite place it, but my maternal instinct whispered caution. Their romance progressed with whirlwind speed. Within 2 months, they were seeing each other daily. Tyler would surprise Amanda with weekend getaways to nearby beach towns, claiming he had accumulated miles and hotel points through his business travel. He drove a luxury car that he explained was necessary to impress clients. "Appearances matter in my business," he told me once. "I need to look successful for people to trust my advice." I noticed how Tyler would casually steer conversations toward finances. At first, his questions seemed innocent enough. "Patricia, did Jack leave you well provided for?" he asked one evening while Amanda was in the kitchen. "I worry about Amanda's future security, given teacher salaries these days." "We're comfortable," I replied vaguely. Jack was always careful with money. As the months passed, these financial inquiries became more frequent and direct. He asked about Jack's business, whether we owned our home outright, and if Jack had life insurance. Each time I deflected or gave minimal answers. One evening, while Amanda was grading papers upstairs, Tyler excused himself to take a phone call. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but his voice carried from the porch into the kitchen, where I was preparing tea. "The situation looks promising," he said in a hushed tone. "The mother doesn't flaunt it, but there's definitely money there, more than they're letting on." After a pause, he continued, "I'm working on it. 6 months tops. I'll have a clearer picture by then." My blood ran cold. The conversation sounded like he was reporting to someone about our financial situation. When he returned, I acted normal, but my suspicions were fully aroused. The next morning, I contacted a private investigator recommended by my attorney. I felt guilty investigating my daughter's boyfriend, but something didn't add up. Tyler's lifestyle seemed too luxurious for a consultant just starting his own business. "I need background information on someone my daughter is dating," I told the investigator, a former FBI agent named Robert. "Something doesn't feel right." 2 weeks later, Robert called with preliminary findings. "Mrs. Williams, your instincts were correct. This Tyler Peterson has some inconsistencies in his background. His business consulting firm exists on paper only with no actual clients I could verify. His address history shows he's moved every 8 to 12 months for the past 5 years. What about his finances?" I asked. "He's carrying significant debt across multiple credit cards, yet maintains a high-end lifestyle. There's a pattern of large cash deposits to his account every few months with no clear source." Robert promised a more detailed report soon, but advised caution. Don't confront him without more evidence, he warned. People who live on deception can become unpredictable when cornered. I thanked him and hung up, my mind racing. Should I tell Amanda about my suspicions? Without concrete proof, would she even believe me? She was clearly in love seeing Tyler through rose-coloured glasses. If I spoke up now with only circumstantial concerns, I risked pushing her away and possibly toward him. I decided to wait for the final report before taking any action. In the meantime, I would keep a closer eye on Tyler and try to protect Amanda as best I could without revealing my suspicions. Little did I know that things were about to accelerate in ways I couldn't control. "Mum, we're engaged!" Amanda's voice bubbled with excitement over the phone. My heart sank, but I forced enthusiasm into my response. "That's wonderful news, sweetie. When did this happen?" "Last night, Tyler took me to that rooftop restaurant downtown and proposed at sunset. It was perfect. 6 months. They'd only been dating 6 months and already they were engaged. Everything was moving too fast. We're thinking about a wedding this spring," Amanda continued. "Tyler says there's no reason to wait when you know it's right." No reason, except to make sure you're not making a terrible mistake, I thought, but didn't say. The wedding planning consumed Amanda's every free moment. Tyler took an unusually active role, weighing in on venue options, catering choices, and even the floral arrangements. Most concerning was his insistence on discussing financial aspects of the wedding with me privately. "Patricia, I know traditional etiquette says the bride's family pays," he mentioned during one such conversation. "But I'm curious what Jack may have set aside for Amanda's wedding. Many fathers create special accounts for their daughter's big day." "Jack and I never discussed specific wedding funds," I replied truthfully. "We believed in living within our means and not creating financial pressure around celebrations." Tyler looked disappointed, but quickly masked it. "That's admirable. So practical." A month before the wedding, Tyler surprised Amanda and me by bringing up a prenuptial agreement. "It's not romantic, I know," he said, reaching for Amanda's hand across my dining room table. "But my business attorney insists it's necessary with my company at such a critical growth stage." Amanda looked confused. "But I don't have any assets to protect. I'm just a teacher. It's more about protecting both of us from any future family complications," Tyler explained smoothly. "Like if your father left any trusts or future inheritances that might complicate our finances." The warning bells in my head grew louder. Why was he so focused on potential inheritance? Before I could think too deeply about this, my phone rang. It was Robert, the investigator. "I have the full report," he said when I stepped outside to take the call. "And Mrs. Williams, you need to see this immediately." The next morning, while Amanda was at school and Tyler was supposedly meeting clients, I met Robert at my attorney's office. What he showed me confirmed my worst fears. Tyler Peterson had been married twice before, both times to women with significant assets. His first marriage ended after 8 months, when his wife discovered he had been systematically draining her accounts. The second lasted just over a year and ended with allegations of fraud, though charges were eventually dropped in a private settlement. He'd also been involved with at least 3 other wealthy women in serious relationships that ended abruptly. In each case, the women had lost money. "He's what we call a professional sweetheart scammer," Robert explained. "He targets women with money, though usually older women. Your daughter might be a deviation from his pattern because of her potential inheritance." The file contained photos of Tyler with these other women, financial records showing suspicious transactions, and court documents from his divorces. The evidence was overwhelming. "What do I do?" I asked my attorney, feeling sick. "Legally, your options are limited," he advised. "Your daughter is an adult. You can show her this information, but it's ultimately her decision whether to believe it or proceed with the marriage." I drove home with the file, my mind in turmoil. The wedding was 3 weeks away. Invitations had been sent, deposits paid, dresses purchased. More importantly, Amanda was happier than I'd ever seen her. Could I destroy that happiness even to protect her? I decided to try one more time to warn her without revealing everything. That evening, I invited Amanda over for dinner, just the two of us. As we sat on the patio with glasses of wine, I approached the subject carefully. Honey, I know you're excited about the wedding and I'm happy for you. But don't you think everything is moving a bit fast with Tyler? Amanda sighed. Mum, I knew you were going to say this. When you know, you know. Dad proposed to you after 6 months, remember? Yes, but that was different. We'd known each other's families, had mutual friends. Tyler is still somewhat of a mystery. That's not fair, Amanda protested. Tyler has shared everything with me. He's honest and open. Has he introduced you to his parents? Any childhood friends? Amanda shifted uncomfortably. His parents are traveling in Europe right now. They're very adventurous, and most of his close friends are scattered across the country because of his consulting work. I wanted to push harder, but saw the defensive look in her eyes. If I revealed my investigation now without preparing her, she might cut me off completely. I decided to hold back the file, at least for the moment. I just want you to be sure, I said finally. Marriage is a big step. I am sure, Mum. Tyler is the one. Her eyes shone with conviction. You'll see. He's going to make me so happy. I hugged her tight, wishing I could protect her from what I feared was coming, but knowing I might have to let her learn this painful lesson herself. As the wedding date approached, I slept less and less, the weight of my secret becoming almost unbearable. The wedding day arrived with perfect spring weather. We'd chosen a beautiful venue overlooking the ocean, not one of my secretly owned properties, but ironically, just a few miles from one. The irony wasn't lost on me that I could have gifted Amanda a multi-million-dollar beachfront villa as a wedding present, yet here I was, maintaining my facade of modest means. I spent the morning with Amanda in the bridal suite, helping her get ready. She looked radiant in her gown, a picture of happiness and hope. As the makeup artist stepped out, we had a moment alone. Mum, I want to thank you, Amanda said, taking my hands. I know you've had concerns about how quickly Tyler and I moved, but you've still supported me. That means everything. I felt tears welling up. This was my last chance to tell her everything, to show her the file that sat in my purse. But looking at her joy-filled face, I couldn't bring myself to shatter her world hours before her wedding. What if I was wrong? What if Tyler truly loved her, despite his past? I just want you to be happy, sweetheart, I managed to say. Your father would be so proud of the woman you've become. Do you think Dad would have liked Tyler? She asked, vulnerability showing through her confident exterior. The question pierced my heart. Jack had been an excellent judge of character and would have seen through Tyler immediately, but I couldn't say that. Your father would have wanted you to follow your heart, I said carefully, and he would have wanted me to support your choice. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. I had made my decision. I would remain silent about my wealth and my suspicions for now. I would watch and wait, ready to step in if necessary, but giving Amanda the respect of making her own choices. The ceremony proceeded beautifully. Amanda glowed with happiness as she walked down the aisle. Tyler looked handsome and charming in his tuxedo, playing the role of adoring groom perfectly. As they exchanged vows, I prayed I had made the right choice in keeping my secrets. During the reception, I noticed Tyler's family seemed oddly disconnected from him. They were present, but there was a formality to their interactions that seemed unusual. His father in particular avoided speaking with me beyond basic pleasantries. How long have you known Tyler? I asked his mother during a quiet moment. She looked startled by the question. Oh, all his life, of course. She laughed nervously. Boys are always closer to their mothers, you know. But she couldn't tell me what sports he played in high school or his favourite childhood book when I asked. Her answers were vague, general. I began to wonder if these people were even his real parents. Tyler gave a charming toast that had everyone smiling, but one line caught my attention. To my beautiful bride Amanda, thank you for believing in me. Together, we're going to build an amazing future with everything we deserve. The emphasis on deserve sent a chill down my spine. Later, as guests danced and celebrated, Tyler cornered me at the bar. "Patricia, I wanted to thank you for everything," he said, his voice lowered. "Amanda told me how her father left things, but I want you to know I'm going to take care of her. In fact, I have some investment opportunities that could really grow any inheritance she might receive in the future." "Amanda doesn't have an inheritance yet," I said firmly, "and I plan to be around for a long time." His smile faltered slightly. Of course. I'm just saying when the time comes, I have connections that could really help the family money grow." "I'll keep that in mind," I replied neutrally. As the evening ended, I hugged Amanda goodbye. Before they left for their 2-week honeymoon in the Mediterranean, a trip I had secretly funded through a special wedding gift fund I claimed Jack had set up years ago. "Enjoy every moment," I whispered to her. "Call me when you can." As their car drove away, I stood alone, wondering if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life by staying silent. A week into Amanda and Tyler's honeymoon, I was sitting on my patio drinking morning coffee when an unfamiliar car pulled into my driveway. To my surprise, Tyler stepped out alone. "Tyler, what are you doing here?" I asked as he approached. "Where's Amanda?" "She's still in Santorini," he replied casually. "She wanted to extend the trip a few days. I had some business to take care of, so I came back early." Something in his tone had changed. The charming warmth was gone, replaced by a cool efficiency. "Amanda didn't mention any change of plans when we spoke yesterday," I said, immediately on alert. "It was a last-minute decision." He glanced around. "Can we talk inside? I have something important to discuss." Against my better judgment, I invited him in. As soon as the door closed, his demeanor transformed completely. "Let's stop playing games, Patricia," he said, his voice hardening. "I know about the villas." My heart raced, but I kept my expression neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about." Tyler laughed, a cold sound, nothing like the warm chuckle I'd heard him use with Amanda. "Really? You want to stick with that story?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. 6 beachfront properties. 2 in the Hamptons, 1 in Malibu, 1 in the Virgin Islands, 1 in Greece, and 1 in the south of France. Total value, approximately $82 million. He slapped photos of each property on my coffee table. "Did you think I wouldn't find out that I'd marry into this family without doing my research?" I remained silent, my mind racing. How had he discovered this? I'd been so careful. "What exactly do you want, Tyler?" I finally asked. "Now we're talking." He sat down, uninvited, on my sofa. "It's simple. I want what Amanda deserves as Jack's daughter. Transfer ownership of the Hamptons properties to me, and we can keep this friendly." "To you, not to Amanda," I clarified. He shrugged. "I'm her husband. What's hers is mine. I'll manage the assets." "And if I refuse?" His eyes narrowed. "Then I tell Amanda how her mother has been lying to her for years, how you've been living in luxury while letting her struggle on a teacher's salary, how you visited these properties while claiming to see old friends, how you let her have a wedding at a cheap venue when you could have hosted it at a multi-million-dollar estate." I realized with horror that he must have been investigating me for months, perhaps even before meeting Amanda. This wasn't opportunistic. It was calculated. "You never loved her," I said quietly. "This was always about the money." Tyler didn't even bother to deny it. "Amanda is fine. She's sweet pretty enough. But let's be honest, Patricia, a kindergarten teacher with no ambition beyond story time and finger painting. I did my research. Jack Williams built an empire from nothing. His daughter should have inherited his business sense, but instead, she's content making $40,000 a year. It's pathetic." My blood boiled at his dismissive tone, but I maintained my composure. "So this whole relationship was a con from the beginning. I prefer to think of it as a business arrangement with fringe benefits," he smirked. "Now about those property transfers. I've taken the liberty of preparing the paperwork." What Tyler didn't know was that I had slipped my phone from my pocket when he first began speaking and had been recording the entire conversation. I also had a silent alarm button installed after Jack died that would alert my security team with one press, which I had triggered when Tyler first revealed his true intentions. "Before we discuss any paperwork, I have something to show you as well," I said, reaching for my purse. I extracted the file Robert had prepared. "Did you know I had you investigated months ago?" Tyler's confidence wavered slightly. "What? I know about the other women, Tyler. The previous marriages, the fraud allegations, everything. I spread out photos of him with his previous targets. Did you really think I wouldn't protect my daughter?" His face darkened. "So what? It's your word against mine. Amanda loves me. She'll believe what I tell her." "Will she believe this?" I held up my phone, showing the recording in progress. "Or the security cameras currently capturing this conversation?" I gestured to the discreet cameras in the corners of my living room that he hadn't noticed. Tyler's face contorted with anger. He lunged forward, grabbing for my phone. "Give me that!" I quickly stepped back, and at that moment, my front door opened. My security team, led by Michael, a former police officer I had hired after Jack's death, entered the room. "Is there a problem, Mrs. Williams?" Michael asked, his imposing figure standing between Tyler and me. Tyler immediately backed down, his predatory demeanor replaced by calculated charm. "Just a family discussion getting a bit heated. No need for concern." "I think it's time for you to leave, Mr. Peterson," Michael stated firmly. "This isn't over," Tyler hissed at me as Michael escorted him out. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." After he was gone, I collapsed onto the sofa, shaking. The confrontation confirmed my worst fears, but it also gave me the evidence I needed. Now came the hardest part. I had to tell Amanda the truth about everything, including my deception. I called Amanda immediately after Tyler left, but she didn't answer. I tried again several times throughout the day with no response. Panic began to set in. Had Tyler already reached her? Was she in danger? Finally that evening she returned my call. "Mom, sorry I missed your calls. I was on a boat tour," she said, sounding relaxed and happy. I breathed a sigh of relief, but knew I couldn't have this conversation over the phone. "Amanda, something important has come up. I need to see you right away." "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" Concern filled her voice. "It's complicated and not something I can discuss over the phone. I'm coming to Santorini." "Mom, that's crazy. You can't just fly to Greece. I'll be there tomorrow. Meet me at the cafe near your hotel at noon." Despite her protests, I ended the call and immediately contacted my travel assistant to arrange a private flight. Money was no object now, not when my daughter's happiness and safety were at stake. 24 hours later, I was sitting at a quaint cafe overlooking the brilliant blue waters of Santorini, waiting for Amanda. She arrived looking tanned and beautiful, but her face was etched with worry. "Mom, what's going on? You're scaring me," she said as she sat down. I took a deep breath. "Amanda, there's something I need to tell you about your father's estate and about Tyler." Over the next 2 hours, I revealed everything. I showed her the file on Tyler, played the recording of his threats, and finally told her the truth about our family wealth. "So, all these years while I've been living on a teacher's salary, scraping by, you've owned properties worth millions." Her voice trembled with hurt and betrayal. "Your father and I always wanted you to develop your own values, to make your own way," I tried to explain. When he died and I discovered the extent of his investments, I was shocked too. "I didn't know how to tell you without changing everything. So instead you lied to me. For 3 years." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "And then you investigated my husband behind my back." "I was trying to protect you," I said softly. "My instincts told me something wasn't right about Tyler." "Your instincts," she repeated incredulously. "What about trusting me to make my own decisions? I'm 30 years old, Mum." Her anger was justified and I accepted it fully. "You're right to be angry. I should have trusted you with the truth. I made a mistake trying to protect you and I'm sorry." Amanda sat silently for a long time, processing everything. Finally, she asked, "Where is Tyler now?" "I don't know. He left my house yesterday after threatening me. He thinks you're still here." She nodded slowly, then reached for her phone. To my surprise, she pulled up a series of text messages and showed them to me. "He's been texting me constantly since he left, asking about property paperwork, whether you've ever mentioned investments to me if Dad left any documents with me." Her voice was hollow. "I thought it was strange, but I never imagined." She trailed off, tears streaming down her face. "There's more," she continued after composing herself. "The first few days of our honeymoon were wonderful, but then Tyler started disappearing for hours for business calls. He was obsessed with looking at real estate listings. When I asked about it, he said he was planning a surprise." "I'm so sorry, Amanda." I reached for her hand across the table. She withdrew it, not ready to accept comfort. "How do I know you're telling the truth now? How do I know this isn't some weird jealousy thing? Listen to the recording," I urged her. "Look at the evidence. Then decide for yourself." She spent the next hour reviewing everything, occasionally asking questions. As the reality sank in, her initial anger at me gradually shifted to the betrayal by the man she had married. "I loved him," she whispered, devastation replacing anger. "I thought he loved me." "I know, sweetheart. I know." This time, when I reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. We sat together as the sun began to set over the Mediterranean, two women grappling with betrayal and the painful process of rebuilding trust. "What do I do now?" she finally asked. "We fight," I said firmly. "We annul this marriage, we protect our family, and we move forward together with no more secrets between us." Amanda nodded slowly, determination beginning to replace despair in her eyes. "No more secrets," she agreed. "Promise me." "I promise." She squeezed my hand. "Then let's go home and deal with Tyler." The weeks following our return from Santorini were among the most difficult of our lives. Amanda moved out of the apartment she had shared with Tyler and into one of the beachfront villas in the Hamptons that had become the centre of this ordeal. She needed space to process everything, yet didn't want to be alone. At first, the weight of betrayal crushed her spirit. She would spend days barely leaving her room, her teaching career temporarily on hold, as she requested personal leave. I visited daily sometimes, sitting silently with her other times, holding her as she cried. "I feel so stupid," she confessed one evening as we sat on the deck watching the ocean. "There were so many red flags, but I ignored them all." "Con artists like Tyler are professionals," I reminded her. "They know exactly how to make you trust them. This isn't your fault." We hired the best legal team money could buy, filing for an annulment based on fraud. Tyler predictably fought back viciously. He hired his own attorneys, claiming that Amanda had known about the family wealth all along and had conspired with me to hide assets during the marriage. "He's turning it all around," Amanda said in disbelief after our attorney called with the update, "making it seem like we're the ones who deceived him." Tyler didn't stop at legal maneuvers. He began a media smear campaign, giving interviews to tabloid websites, portraying himself as the victim of a wealthy, manipulative family. "Kindergarten teacher hiding secret millions," read one headline. "Husband blindsided by wife's secret fortune," claimed another. For the first time, I used our wealth aggressively. We hired a crisis management team, released evidence of Tyler's past to select journalists, and made sure the true story came to light. We gave a single, carefully crafted interview to a respected news program showing the evidence of Tyler's pattern of targeting wealthy women. The public tide began to turn in our favor. Other women Tyler had conned came forward with their stories, strengthening our case. His carefully constructed facade crumbled under the weight of mounting evidence. Throughout this storm, Amanda slowly began to heal. The villa became her sanctuary rather than her prison. She started walking the beach each morning, practicing yoga, and gradually reconnecting with friends who offered support without judgment. I watched my daughter transform through this ordeal. The naive optimism was replaced by a wiser, more discerning outlook, but her fundamental kindness remained intact. She became interested in the management of our properties, asking questions about investments and legacy planning. "Dad built all this," she said one day as we reviewed the portfolio together. "I never got to appreciate his business genius while he was alive." 6 months after returning from Santorini, we faced Tyler in court for the final hearing. As we sat at the plaintiff's table, he entered with his attorney, looking considerably less polished than the charming man who had wooed Amanda. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and the judge granted the annulment. Additionally, Tyler was ordered to pay damages and legal fees. The other victims who had come forward during our case were pursuing their own legal action against him. His carefully constructed house of cards had completely collapsed. As we left the courthouse, Tyler attempted one last confrontation, approaching us on the steps. "You think you've won," he sneered, "but you've lost the only person who ever saw value in you beyond your money," he said to Amanda. She looked at him steadily, without fear or anger. "No, Tyler, you never saw my value at all. That's why you lost." She turned and walked away, her head held high. That moment marked a turning point. Amanda's healing accelerated after the legal battle concluded. She decided not to return to her old school immediately, but instead established a foundation focused on financial literacy education for young women. She wanted to use our resources to help others protect themselves from predators like Tyler. "I can't prevent everyone from being targeted," she told me, "but I can help arm them with knowledge." I could not have been prouder of her resilience and determination to create something positive from her pain. As for me, I embraced my role as the steward of Jack's legacy, no longer hiding our wealth, but using it thoughtfully and responsibly. I established a scholarship fund in Jack's name for underprivileged students pursuing real estate and business degrees. I also became an anonymous donor to organizations supporting victims of financial fraud. Amanda and I developed a new philosophy about money together. We saw it not as something to hide or flaunt, but as a tool to create positive change. We learned to balance privacy with transparency, especially in new relationships. A year after the annulment, Amanda met David, a professor of environmental science, at a charity event for her foundation. Unlike her whirlwind romance with Tyler, this relationship developed slowly and naturally. When she felt ready to introduce us, I saw immediately that his interest in her was genuine. He was more impressed by her passion for education than by the beachfront villa where they met for dinner. "This time, no secrets," Amanda told him on their third date, explaining her family's wealth and her previous experience. His response was simple and perfect. "I'm dating you, not your bank account." 2 years after her disastrous first marriage, I watched Amanda walk down the aisle again, this time with a man who truly valued her for herself. The wedding was held at one of our villas, a small, intimate gathering of genuine friends and family. As mother of the bride, I gave a toast that brought tears to many eyes, to finding love based on truth, to the strength that comes from overcoming betrayal, and to the wisdom to recognize the difference. Life has a way of teaching us lessons through difficult experiences. My decision to hide our wealth had come from a place of love, but led to vulnerability. Amanda's trust in Tyler had been misplaced, but taught her to trust herself more deeply. Through it all, we emerged stronger, wiser, and more authentic with each other and the world. I often wonder what Jack would think of everything that happened. I believe he would be proud of how we protected his legacy and used it to help others. Most of all, I think he would be proud of Amanda, who embodies his best qualities: resilience, integrity, and the ability to turn setbacks into stepping stones. Have you ever protected someone you love by keeping a secret only to wonder if telling the truth would have been better? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like this video. If Amanda's journey of healing resonated with you, subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over betrayal, and share with someone who might need to be reminded that even our deepest wounds can become sources of strength and wisdom. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes the most painful chapters of our lives can lead to the most beautiful transformations.